According to our textbook, The Learning Cycle, the nature of science is learned from investigating nature. Albert Einstein stated, "The object of all science is to coordinate our experience and to bring them into a logical system." This all means that we must look at natural phenomena and ask why. I believe my lesson covers this. Students were asked to investigate the natural phenomena of the water cycle and ask why some objects float and some objects sink. After exploring this, they were asked to come to a conclusion and defend their explanations to me and the rest of the class. These two lessons did not match any NGSS 5th grade standards. These two lessons were provided to me by my cooperating teacher's science standards that she must cover in the classroom. All of my students have what Piaget would call schemas. They all had a foundation for the water cycle and objects that floated and sank. I was able to access this by asking questions and through probes in my lessons. During my two lessons, I was able to utilize a fist to 5 before, during, and after my water cycle lesson. I was also able to use one of Paige Keeley's probes during my buoyancy and float lesson. This fact and probe guided my teaching and learning by showing me where my students were throughout the lesson. These assessments were instrumental to my lessons throughout the process of creating and executing my lessons. The reaction to my lessons was overwhelmingly positive. The water cycle lesson was especially liked by my students. They were able to get up and physically experience the water cycle, expel a little energy, and learn in a less structured way. My teacher loved the lesson structure as well because it was fun, engaging, and introduced the students to a new lesson she was teaching the following week. The buoyancy and float lesson was well received by all. The students liked the debate that went along with the lesson, and they loved how investigative it was. Overall, these lessons were well received by my cooperating teacher and my students. In my water cycle lesson, the students were very engaged in the lesson, and I believe that by the end, most had a better understanding of the water cycle. However, I do know that some got extremely off task and did not realize we were dancing for a specific reason. I had to get my students back on track multiple times. My sink or float lesson was also engaging with the students, and a lot of them were able to clarify some misconceptions about objects that float and sink. However, some students could not handle gently placing the objects in the water. They would get water all over the desks and become very messy. As a whole, the lessons went well, and I am working to improve my classroom management skills.